everyone for showing up tonight, this evening, and hopefully the traffic wasn't too bad. It's the usual excuse for Los Angeles, right? I actually heard somebody was driving from pretty far to get here, so thanks a lot for all of you that drove from far. And tonight, our main speaker, Wang, is going to talk about content marketing and event marketing. About myself, I'm Alessandro Marianantoni. Definitely this accent, it's not from downtown Los Angeles, it's from Santa Monica. That's what I've been told. Actually, of course, I'm from Italy, and I ran an Accelerator program here in downtown Los Angeles, just a few blocks on Los Angeles streets. And we just started, it's a fairly new company, but we already had 5 cohorts, about 70 participants. All of them mainly from Italy and from Europe. We're extending and creating a more international community. There were cohorts, and we have mainly 3 programs. Just a quick introduction. It's open innovation, so it's mainly for managers that want to bring innovation in their established companies. We have the usual startup accelerator program from a few days. We actually have even a one-day workshop, but it's usually either 1 week or 4 weeks or 12 weeks. And we help young founders in creating their company, and then either bootstrapping it, so creating MVPs and digital marketing actuation, so transforming strategy marketing into solution marketing, digital marketing solutions. And another route is to help young founders in find investors. So we help them either in sales pitch or say investors pitch. The other program is in digital marketing, and it's usually for somebody who wants to develop pretty strong skill in technical skills in the digital marketing field. Talking about digital marketing, I want to introduce our main speakers for tonight. And actually, let me say just a few words. We are creating these events with Wang, and for creating more awareness, and also creating a community around the topic. And thanks for WeWork for the space, and definitely Nelson, please come over. Thank you.
All right, how's everyone doing? Whoa, this thing is obviously I did not test the audio. How's everyone doing? You guys excited to be here?
Good.
Yeah? Who yelled out yeah? Is that you?
Uh-huh.
Why are you so timid? But you yelled out, and then now you're like, yeah, it was me. I'm kidding. Here's $20 for being excited. I just like when people bring good vibes and everything.
Yes! I'm excited!
No one asked you. There's no prize for second place. But are you guys excited now?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So the reason we do this is, I thought it'd be really cool to put together a monthly event where you guys get to hear directly from an entrepreneur on how they built their business and share best practices and lessons they've learned along the way. Sound pretty good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah!
Should have never given out money. And then after that, I'll walk you guys through some content and event marketing, stuff that I've learned over the last 13 years, so hopefully that's valuable as well. Sound good? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start by welcoming Ching-Mei. We're very excited and honored to have Ching-Mei here. Co-founder of PicCollage with over 190 million downloads, one of the top iOS apps ever. So really excited to hear the story of how that was built, and please give a warm round of applause.
Thanks, Nelson. That was too kind.
I practiced that quite a bit. Okay, so just to level set, Ching-Mei's responsibilities include being the head of business and community, head of product, people management and training, recruiting, raising seed funding, and also investor relations. Did I miss anything? Or sound about right?
Yeah, we were just talking about how at a startup you kind of do everything, and you've been, I've kind of gone through different roles, but yeah, that sounds about right when I focus on that.
Awesome,
Yeah.
great. And we do want to keep this really interactive, so actually at any point if you have a question, just raise a hand. Alessandro will get the mic to you, and we'll make sure that you get your question asked. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start off with the first question, which is, tell us about the story of what inspired you to start PicCollage.
Sorry if I sound repetitive to a few of you because I mentioned this earlier, but so we started off in 2008 when the Facebook platform was just taking off, and we were building different casual games, I wouldn't say games, so casual games, casual apps, like one call to action, and it went viral. And we had two big ones, so we had some revenue from those two apps, and then Facebook started toying with their APIs, shutting down notifications, that red bubble that you see now, that's only for friends now, used to be for apps. And we're like, you know what, we cannot make a living at the whim of Facebook. So that was when the iPad, I want to say the iPad just launched, or launched like a year before, and we're like, okay, this thing's going to be big, it's going to be on everyone's coffee table. Let's go for that. And what we learned from our Facebook apps is that, people can spend money like it's nothing, and they can, get accounts deleted, it doesn't matter. But if they lost their photos, they would be crushed. And we had an app that was called Travel Balloon, and it was all about travel. That was our intent, but it became a tribute, like a memorial type of app. People only launched balloons for people who passed away. So it became even more sentimental, and photos that they uploaded was about someone who passed away. And we wanted to take these things that money can't buy, and what would you be willing, so we asked the question, like, what would you be willing to pay for, like, you would think was useful, and it is backup storage, box, right, Dropbox, and for your photos specifically. So we're like, okay, let's build a photo app. So we narrowed it down to, we're gonna build a photo app. And we knew that it was gonna be a B2C game, play, because that's what we're good at. We're good at finding one core thing that people wanted to do and doing that well. And it's not fancy or anything, but people would come back for it. So we were like, okay, iPad has a big screen. What's a photo app that would work well on an iPad? Okay, what if you could move it around? And like now it sounds like duh, like what screen can you not move things around on? But back then it was like one of the first in the space to create a free form type of collage app for iPad and iPhone. It turns out that only 20% of our usage is on iPad and 80% is iPhone, because all your photos are on the iPhone. But it's fine, because it worked fine on the iPhone too, and screens get bigger, and so it was a win-win situation. But so that's kind of the beginning of it. We launched a really simple version of it. In fact, we were working on two other mobile apps at the same time. One was a productivity app, one was a filter app, and we really wanted the productivity app to work because we wanted to use it internally. But PicCollage, it was kind of like our CTO had built it on the plane for a demo for some investor pitch, and we were like, oh, Jaime, just submit it too. And then that took off. Like one of the apps got 100 downloads a day, and PicCollage got like 10,000 downloads a day, featured by Apple as new and noteworthy, and it became top 10 since then. So we're like, okay, we're double downing on PicCollage. So that was kind of the start of it.
So I love how you talked about product market fit in that story, and how you talked to the users and found out what they actually needed and cared about the most. But I'm curious, as you go from that stage of product market fit to 190 million downloads, what are some of the key organic growth strategies that you put in place that got you to that 190 million?
So I, again, described it earlier a bit before, but there were two things that it was really good that this happened accidentally, was that it was such a simple version of what is now PicCollage that we were able to identify what worked. So the name was PicCollage because we didn't spend any time thinking about a clever name for this app that was soon to be a big app. We spent days, weeks talking about fighting over what the app for that productivity app was. I don't even remember it now. But PicCollage was like, all right, what is it? It's a photo collage app. The Heroku name is PicCollage, so let's just call it PicCollage because picture collage was too long. And then we realized that we were getting a lot of organic search search results optimized, like ASO results from it, because people were searching collage, people were searching pic, you know, and we're like, okay, first of all, we were debating whether to put pic and collage as one word, and then we decided for ASO purposes, we're going to split it up so that we capture the word collage and pic, and then that totally went up, it spiked up because the App Store algorithm isn't clever enough to know when a word starts. So collage, if it's PicCollage, they don't realize that collage is a word. So that is one thing. From then till now, we have never changed the name just because that is one of our biggest drivers of downloads. So we spent this 100% organic. We have, you know, we wouldn't even know what to tell you which channel works best for us because we haven't quite tried it yet. But just from experience, keywords are really important. Don't try to be clever with, you know, some word that people can't spell, people have never heard of, and you have to repeat, you know, you have to spell it out for people. The subtitles, so through the years, Apple has changed their algorithm on how they rank stuff. So we've had to try to guess it every now and then. Every iteration that we submit to the App Store, we make sure that our keywords are updated somewhat. We do it for different languages, different countries, because things that people search are different across countries and languages. And then there are screenshots. Those are also very important. We use Google Play Store listing A/B testing tool. So they have an A/B testing tool in Google Play Store where you roll it out to different iterations to users, real users, and you can see like within a day how many people chose what. So we try to like just change the background of our screenshots, keep the content the same, you know, see which one performs better. Even description, you can A/B test that in Google Play. So we use Google for the testing, and then we apply it to the App Store based on the assumption that our users are roughly the same, like people are people. So that, you know, I would say that for an organically driven app like ours, keywords and screenshots and descriptions are really important, and reviews. So I'm sure by now, most of you who are in the app space know the trick of prompting users for a 5-star review. You know, if it's negative, send them to your ticketing system. If it's positive, then you send them to the App Store. But like just little tricks that we kind of had to figure out along the way is still, I think, is what is working for us. What would be challenging though is if one day that stops for some reason, where again at the whim of Apple's algorithms, then we then have to scramble to figure out whether Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, Pinterest works best for our marketing. Yeah.
I'm actually going to take a moment here just to check in with you guys. Anyone have a question from the crowd? Oh, great.
You keep saying we, so I'm just wondering,
The
beyond
team.
you, just the team, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, okay, so the co-founders, there are 4 co-founders. We all met in Taipei, Taiwan. We grew the team in Taipei. We have most of our team members in Taipei. We are now about 28 full-time and 10 interns. So we have a large intern cohort.
Quickly, the four of you, what were your skill set?
So CEO, CTO, I was head of product, and we have a head of design. And then I started, you know, then our community got bigger, and so I took on more of the community, head of community, and then we started making money, or trying to make money. So there was a business role with external partnerships and stuff. So I'm now one of the only external facing people on the team. Most people are product or product operations development.
I think we had another question over here. Yes.
When you first put out the app, obviously like there's growth strategies when you're getting data in from downloads, but then did you find out like the product market fit more kind of randomly? Like you put out a couple products. What was the product market fit kind of like process like?
Well, again, so it was kind of, actually maybe this may or may not be important to you guys, but we went through the 500 Startups Accelerator, So I think, we started in Taipei and we were trying a lot of stuff in Taipei, and we just decided, we need to get out there, we need to go to Silicon Valley. And I'm not selling Silicon Valley, like that's not the only place you can build an app, but for us, especially in Asia, being mostly based in Asia, even though the co-founders have all grown up outside of Asia, it was important for us to see what other people were doing and having a deadline to launch an app. Because you're usually always waiting for perfection before launching anything. And so we did all the stuff that lean startup methods tell you to do, and that's when we built that productivity app. I think it's called Snapbit. Let's call it Snapbit. And basically you would write stuff on a whiteboard and you clean it and boom, share. We did everything right, according to the book. And since then, since PicCollage, we've also launched a dozen or more apps. Just trying new things, just experimenting, and none of them have taken off. So, I have to say, a lot of it, this was a just very obvious product market fit that was handed to us. So it was obvious that 10,000 downloads, trumps 100 downloads. So, which one do we focus on? Obviously that. And then since then, our data has told us that it's just hard, especially in this day and age, to get a 10,000 download on day one type of app. So, and we've, for 7 years, managed to stay in the top 10. There's something about what we've done that resonates with the mainstream user. It might not be the Instagram or the Facebook, the social media, hangout, but it is something that just speaks to people and easy to use.
When you launched, was it actually like you put it on the App Store, put your keywords, and then a couple days later it just started to take off? Was that what happened?
Yes,
okay.
That's what happened.
Do you think that would still happen in today's app market environment?
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling them that the first version of PicCollage, you couldn't even save a collage. Like it was one screen app, and you had to take a screenshot, because if you didn't, the next time you came into the app, like it would be gone. And that was the version that was featured by Apple as new and noteworthy. And we're like, okay, we need to add a save button, Ching-Mei. So 2 days later, I submitted, and there was a save button, but then that was it. And because of that, for a year or two, we never went beyond one screen. So PicCollage was a one-screen app for the longest time, and it was so frustrating because we wanted to add so many things, but we're like, no, but Apple loved that one-screen thing. But times have changed and competition's grown, and we just had to do things that you have to do. Yeah.
So one of the things I'm curious about is, especially for a lot of consumer mobile apps, we will often see deceleration in downloads over the years, but you've mentioned how it's had incredible staying power. What are the key things you think have led to retention being so strong for this app?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, we have not innovated as quickly as our competitors. So if you look at Pixar, that actually started as an Android first app, which is also very rare. I think it was web first and then Android and then iOS, but they're, we're kind of, I would say our biggest competitor. They have a social network, they're big on video, they've done a lot of innovation. We've been a bit more cautious and conservative, but our main thing is keep the crash rate as low as possible, keep users happy. So our customer service is actually only me and 2 other people, but try to be as good as possible. Those 2, and then funnels. So we do a lot of A/B testing on the first page and realize, okay, people are dropping off after this, after we added this, let's take it out. So iteration on that. And then also for old users, have push notifications that bring them back. So kind of, the usual that I think most of you have heard of before. But I think keeping that, and also freshness. Right, so I think with user feedback, we felt that a lot of our users like us because they can see that we're trying. It's kind of touchy-feely, but as a user, if you see changes and improvements and you've been heard, they want more sticker packs, we give them more sticker packs, or whatever it is. They feel like you're not dead, and that there's always something new to come back to. So I think that is, so again, it's hard to measure what organic traffic because it's organic and because it's a lot of word of mouth and emotions that they feel when they're using it.
Totally. And I think a testament to just building a really great product that people love to use and want to go back to consistently. And I've used the product myself, I love it. And one thing I wanted to follow up on is, especially in the freemium model, you get all these downloads. I think a question people might want to ask is, well, how do you monetize that user base of 190 million people? What was the strategy there that led to an effective monetization strategy for the company?
Well, the strategy there was I don't ever want to raise money again. I really, some founders loved raising money. I hated it, and it was one of the hardest years of. I'm almost like crying thinking about it, but it was really painful that 2013. And after that, my John, my CEO, and I said, okay, let's just make our own money. Let's never do this. Have to do this again. So we're very motivated to try to make money somehow. And so the most obvious thing was selling sticker packs. So that was before Facebook had stickers and the whole sticker thing came out. But Line, which is the Japanese version of Messenger or WhatsApp, the biggest messaging tool in East Asia, had like stickers were a way of communication. And being based in Taiwan, stickers was a big culture there too. And we're like, we should just launch stickers. We get, the artist community together, build a community around artists instead of around like users sharing and just liking. Like if we could get 100 artists and give them some money, like they're maybe just part-time artists, right? Give them some money and be able to sell it, that'll be great. So we started with a 14-year-old high school student or middle school student who was my friend's daughter, based in the Bay Area, and paid her $200, and her pack was like one of the most successful in our app. And we didn't charge for it yet, but that was when we realized, okay, we can, there are tons of talented people out there who are going to be happy even doing it for free, just so that they can get their name out there. So we slowly built this business around selling content that were created by non-in-house designers. And then a year later, we started, we added the watermark, the PicCollage watermark, and we were like, okay, the uglier the better, so people will pay to remove it. And so it's still there, and it's actually the biggest in-app purchases that we have right now, more than stickers, more than backgrounds. So yeah, it's kind of how it started. We are rolling out subscriptions soon. We're again late to the game on subscriptions, but I hear that's the way to go. So yeah, and we'll hear more from Nelson about that.
I wanted to open it back up to the audience. Any questions from the audience? I do have another question. We talk a lot about success. What I'm really curious about is what is one of the biggest failures that you had, and what did you learn from that?
Well, we have a lot of failures. Well, I think what I mentioned earlier, I think we've been slower than our competition. In the past 7 years, we're still, people know us as a photo app. Photo is so 5 years ago, right? Like everyone's onto video, onto AR. We've tried to add elements of that within PicCollage, but because it's such a big and heavy app at this point, it's really hard to innovate quickly. So, our strategy over the past 4 years has been, okay, for little experiments that we want to do, like say a video editor or, a GIF app, let's do it on the side, let's create a new app for it. So we did that, but those never took off. What we end up with is 4 years later, PicCollage is still a photo app. And I think through that time also, we're grown from a 15-person company to a 25, and now 35, and management becomes a thing. Like we now need an HR person, we need a financial operations person, and all these things that we wake up suddenly to saying, oh my gosh, we're almost a 40% company and we don't have an HR person. So you fill your time with so much things to do that you don't have time to take a step back and plan for, like, what is 2019 going to look like, and who do we need to hire to get there. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't want to be asking all the questions, but just curious. Going back to your comment about it won't work today, you said that won't work today. Number one. Number two is, seems like it's been 10 years now since you've launched.
7.5 from PicCollage, since
7.5, and then after that you worked on several apps, is what you said,
Yeah.
and they've not essentially taken off.
Correct.
So I mean, when you juxtapose the two stories, I'm just wondering, does it just boil down to the fact that it was a one-off great idea versus is there something else to the fact of you, a team like yours,
Yeah.
who launched PicCollage? My question, I guess, is then you've launched 12 ideas or 8 ideas,
Yeah.
and it's been hard.
Yeah.
It's not been easy. So for people like us who are just getting out the door,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I hate to put it this way, was it a great one-off great idea that took off, or what is it, or how would you do it differently, or, you know? It might be a windy question, but I'm sorry.
I have to say that there are moments where there's a spark again in the things we launched. So we just rolled out a photo book app, a photo book, so you can actually print and have it shipped to your house. And it isn't perfect, but it's simple, and it gets from 0 to completion in a very few steps. And we actually outsourced the code, but because I'm not a developer, but this was kind of, I want to try this market and whatever. And we don't get the thing about being at PicCollage is that we can, instead of having to throw money at spending ads, which I think is a must for any new app now, we run a banner in PicCollage and we get enough users who click on it and see the App Store preview, and then you can kind of get, okay, this is working or it's not. And then I've now been following the ASO again for this photo book app, and it feels like this new baby again, and you can see things going hockey stick up instead of PicCollage has been flat. Like it's still 15 monthly active users, 15 million monthly active users, but flat for the past 2 years. So it's exciting to launch a new app, and compared to the other, say, 12 apps that we launched, we're getting higher engagement, we're getting higher, conversions, and it's just a matter of okay, how do we make it even more simple maybe, or who do we partner with to make it grow faster? So one of our second biggest apps is JitCam, which was actually an app that Facebook asked a bunch of developers to create a GIF, to create an app for their Messenger platform. This was 4 years ago or so. And so that was organic traffic from Facebook Messenger users. So that, partnerships like that could help just get it jump-started, but it's still not as big as PicCollage. But if you had a really good product and you had the right leverage up, then it could take off, or you had the right ASO tweaks and stuff. So with this photo book thing, it's still small scale, but the improvement compared to the other apps tells me that that's a better product market fit than the other stuff that we've tried.
I'm going to wrap with one last question. So what was the best and worst piece of advice that you've ever done?
Okay. Best is build something that you would actually use. Yeah, although that didn't work with the productivity app. So, again, it's kind of cliche. But I think the other one that I think came from my CEO, actually, John, was when we were having an argument about, hiring a talented person, but there wasn't really a role for that person. And I was like, well, she's so smart, she could, do this and that. And he was like, May, you don't just create stuff for people to do. And, you know, that's kind of true to a certain extent, although I find him doing that now too. It's like, what can this person work on? But, you know, we all tend to do that because you just want that really talented person, but you don't create work for roles. So that was something I always remember. Worst advice, target the China market. Like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you guys are based in Taipei, why don't you go for the China market? It's like booming. And it is a completely different animal. Like, it's like a different planet. So unless you are prepared to, you know, live, breathe, sleep, eat everything their system, don't even try. You know, like it's impossible. So we don't even have WeChat, share to WeChat or any, like everyone's like, oh, it's so simple. Why don't you just like do a share to WeChat? Maybe it'll take off there. I'm like, it's not worth the brain power even, because you're not going to win it unless you're ready to build a team in China. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that your team grew in Taipei.
Yeah.
So it's a remote company?
No, the team is mainly that I am the remote company.
Oh,
I am the only person based in LA. We have 2 people in San Francisco, 1 person in Toronto. So 4 of us are the remote people, but more the external facing people. And then the product team is in Taipei.
Gotcha. Are you looking to also expand your team to other areas?
Possibly, like I'm hoping to maybe build a bigger presence than 1 person in LA. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anyone looking for a job?
Didn't want to.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah. How did you get to your for PicCollage? How did you get to your first 1,000 users? How long did it take, and how much did it cost?
Half a day. We got like 10,000 users in a day. The first day we launched, it cost us nothing. Apple featured us. Yeah. So yeah, the power.
So how did you get that feature there?
They liked the simplicity of our first version of PicCollage, and there was nothing out there similar at the time. It's a free form app, so you know, multiple photos, move it around the screen at the same time. That was actually quite hard then. You know, you could only move one thing at a time before, and then you know, the day. It's just interesting, the stuff that we learn over time is like the day we managed to get multiple moving at the one time, we realized nobody even cared. Nobody practically moves 2 images at the same time, right? So, you know, technically on technical level, you get all excited, but on a practical usability level, it doesn't move the needle. So.
When you launched the first version of your app, you said you don't wait for perfection. How did you feel about it when you launched it? Did you feel like, oh, I wish we had this better, or did you feel pretty good about it?
We didn't even look at it. I mean, we didn't. I mean, we saw the demo before, but we were all focused on that Snapbit productivity tool that it didn't matter. And in hindsight, like the thing about PicCollage, I don't know how many have used it, but it really just feels good. And I've used some other collage apps, and it just feels a bit like stickier, like or grainier. I don't know how to describe it, but there's a lot of physics behind it apparently, like the weight that goes into if you're moving it from this corner versus that corner, it is different. So I think that first version was as good as it got, and the fact that Apple featured it, we were pretty happy with it, and we were also in the mindset of MVP. You know what? We're not going for perfection. So even the productivity app, even though we did a lot of user feedback and whatnot, it still wasn't perfect, and we still launch apps that are not perfect.
So I think I've been hearing like a lot of really interesting answers from you tonight in terms of all these different apps that you've built, some with great success, some with no success, unfortunately. Kind of curious from your perspective, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about the predominant differences between product and business. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs who build great products, but they last for a year and then they crash. But some that build businesses and they build a product within that business that crashes, but the business still lives on. So I'm curious, from your perspective and in your experience, what's the difference between a product and a business, and when did you feel like your products turned into businesses?
So we're definitely the latter, the product, or was it the former? The former, the product-driven business. So again, we weren't profitable. We didn't even make any revenue. It was a completely free app. You could download stickers for free for 3 years. So we raised a seed round in 2013, 2-point-something million.
Your seed?
Yeah, our seed. So we've never, yeah. But we're like, if we're gonna do this, we're just gonna max out on a seed round and never do it again. But we didn't even have this term business until about 2 years ago when I became the head, and I'm really the only business person on my team. Community, I mean, we don't have a marketing team, we don't have a sales team, and our monetization is actually under the analytics group. So the growth and analytics group does monetization. The business group deals with the external partnerships, whether it's tech partnerships, so like when Facebook says, hey, be part of F8 and build this app so that we can feature you, we're like, okay, so I need to be the account manager for the external partner, but then the product team in Taipei is working on the actual product. Or like for physical goods, photo books, like I have to source like the actual vendors and this and that. And for investors, that's external. Users are external. So for us, actually, our business is the community. And what comes out, we believe that if we can build a strong enough and loyal enough community, like a business will naturally come from it. So, for example, the artist community, right? That is a very obvious business model there. Or subscriptions, being part of a membership of an app that you love. So I think we've held back from having a sales team or what we would call a marketing team for a while, also because, well, what marketing team, again, is we're lucky, we do have people to do social media, but it's not to get downloads, it's just so that we maintain a presence out there. But for sales, you really need something to sell to people to be defined as sales, right? We think that the product speaks for itself, and it's interesting that I've never thought about it that way, split up between product and business, but the product is the business because if you have a product that people come back to and retention and are engaged with it, then that will be monetizable and that will be your business. Yeah. And it's hard to build a product based on a business model because it's maybe it's just the way my DNA is now, but it feels a bit more contrived. Like you would have to sell. Like how do you know it's a business? Like you would have to sell it before even building the product to a certain extent, right? So I think like for even all the apps that we've launched a ton of AR apps, and it's just not resonating with people because it's just not mainstream yet, right? And I think the key is to pick up something that they're also really hardcore tech stuff like AI and stuff that, okay, so what our direction we want to go in is to use AI and machine learning with the data we already have and just improve PicCollage as a photo app. Like we don't try to be someone else, but like keep up with the times on the back end and show them stickers that they want instead of like manually. We have one person manually curating our sticker list right now. Like don't tell anyone, but it's so it's very manual right now, and we should be doing more than that on a technical level. Yeah, technology part.
Well, could you, when you were going through the fundraising process, what do you think were like the top 3 things that sold when you were pitching to VCs and angels? And I don't know, I know you haven't done raising, but if you know anything about the environment today, if anything's changed.
I'm sure everything has changed since 2013. What did I pitch? So again, this was a challenging part. John is he's an engineer by training, so he's very fact-based. He doesn't like emotions, and I am sort of the opposite. I mean, I understand numbers, but you know, sometimes you have to like make it, like for me, the key was to make it flow, make it feel natural, as opposed to being, the more specific you are about numbers, the more they get honed in the numbers and the details, which is what you try to avoid doing. So I would say like kind of paint a big picture and the landscape of how big it can be, because they're not doing it for a quick buck, right? Investors nowadays, or the good investors, are not doing it for a quick buck. They want to know that you're going to transform the world somehow, right? So you have to think big and not, you know, say how much money you're gonna. Okay, our app is a completely different case because it's very consumer. It was a free app, so we had to sell on our traction. So it's traction, and then it will be natural that when we get this many users, you know, that we can make this much amount of money. But it was more about like people spend, you know, back when I was a teenager, I created collages on my folder, and every week it would be different. And you know, this is a natural human instinct, and you know, of course people are still going to do it, but they're going to do it on their phones, and they're going to change their wallpapers all the time. And you know, the next step, we're now going back to physical. We're going back to photo books. We're going back to wall art. And I just came from a photo video conference in the Bay Area, and it was surprising. 2 years ago, so 5 years ago, it was all photo. 2 years ago, it was all video, and now it's all print. Like, it was photo apps, then video apps, and now it's physical print. So the traditional companies are coming back to these conferences, and it's because people want that you know, something real in their hands. They like to receive mail in the mailbox again, and it's just been interesting following this trend, and so those would be things that I would pitch at an investor meeting. It's like, you know, just the world, like show them you understand humans and who your audience is. If you're a B2B company, it's completely different, right? I don't understand that space, but yeah. Yeah, I think it has to be a wider landscape sort of discussion as opposed to numbers. And this is just our style, but just as an entrepreneur, you also have to filter the investors that you want, because you know, there are a lot of investors out there that have a lot of money to you know, throw at entrepreneurs, and you do not want to be in a situation where, you know, you spend your whole lives working on this thing, but you know, they're not adding much input, value, you know, they, you know, don't have the right concept of what you're trying to build. And if they ask questions like, okay, show me on a spreadsheet your 5-year forecast of revenue, like we still took the meetings, but you know, we filtered out, like, you know, we don't want this person as an investor, like it's just not our style. We want them to believe in what we're building and give us the right kind of advice. So I think one other difficult thing I forgot to mention that we've had to do as founders is to go against the advice of our investors. You know, they wanted us to hire some very expensive executive recruiter, you know, and you know, they're just like things that involve spending a lot of money that we didn't quite believe in. So, you know, we had to not just go against them, and we don't have a board, so that's good. But it's still hard to like have meetings with your investors and then do the opposite. But we've done, and then we've, again, motivation for making our own money was that we didn't think that we were at the right stage in time to be spending money on an executive recruiter at the time. Like, it took us a long time to come to the point. It was years when we were saying, well, let's make sure we have product market fit. And you know, to many of you, you think, oh, that first week you should know you have product market fit. No, I mean, it can disappear. Like, once Apple does something, you know, it's gone. It's not product market fit. But I think right now, after 7 years, I think we have found product market fit, and we can actually start growing the team, hire an HR person who can then help grow our management team, and in the process, like a lot of stuff, moving pieces and management issues that we have to adjust based on the growing size of the team.
Awesome. So we do want to wrap on this session with the fireside chat, even though we don't have a fireside. But can we give a warm round of applause for the insights? And then if you guys over there, if you want to join, there's a couple seats open here, so don't be shy. Okay, cool. So I know we have a little bit of time left, so I'll go through this pretty quickly. If I am going too fast, just let me know. But that probably won't stop me from going fast. Because I want you to get all the great content to hopefully help you with your content and event marketing strategy. Sound good? Cool. Okay. So everyone, welcome. Hopefully you feel really warm and fuzzy from this gift. No one? Okay. No more gifts. All right, so here's the content marketing agenda we're going to go through today. The first is, I'll just give you a quick introduction, just so you know the context of where this information and training is coming from. Otherwise, it's like, what's your experience, what did you do, etc. The second is I'll briefly hit on the value of content marketing, why it matters, right? Why do we even do this? The third is we're going to talk about identifying your audience, crafting your elevator pitch. We're going to do this together, actually. And then I'll talk to you about how to do market research, how to find product market fit, how to create amazing content, how to distribute it, and then how to get free press, which is always really nice. Normally, PR firms charge $5,000 to $20,000 per month, and they don't even guarantee press for you, and I know that because I've hired PR firms. So I'm going to actually walk you through how you as an individual or business can do that completely free. Sound good? Okay, cool. So this is my quick background. My background is mainly B2B. So I've worked at VMware, Cisco, which are the traditional large tech companies, and then also worked at smaller startups like Optimizely, which is about an $800 million valuation A/B marketing testing company, and then Box, which when I joined was smaller, and now we're a public company, which is exciting to see. And also at TopSale, which is a $1 billion plus startup that basically connects businesses with talent. So developers, designers, finance experts, etc. My roles have been anywhere from individual contributor, mostly in the sales, partnerships, marketing side, to part of the executive team. So just some quick background there. It's about 13 years at different tech companies. But I've also done consumer. So I've actually built apps as well. I don't have 190 million downloads, which would have been awesome. But I have built 4 top 100 iOS apps before in different categories. So those are in lifestyle, entertainment, and also in business. So quick story on that. If we talk about how do you come up with product ideas, I literally sat with my mom one day after dinner and I said, what would you want for an app? And she said, I'd love an app that could give me different hairstyles. And I was like, that's brilliant. So I built the app and I got 75,000 downloads in a day. So top 15 in entertainment came from my mom, which I would have never have guessed. She doesn't even use apps on her phone. So just to let you know, you never know where that top 100 app idea is going to come from. I will say that was many years ago, back in 2012. There's now over 4 million apps in the store. There's probably more than that. I just Googled that today. But it's a very different game now, as we talked a little bit earlier about. In addition to that, I have founded 3 companies. One completely failed. Happy to talk about that one day if you guys want to go through that. One was actually acquired, and then the third was we shut it down because we just weren't passionate about the mission. And so that was a big learning lesson on our part. Lastly, on the content marketing side, over 14 million content views, mainly just from writing. I'm about to start getting into video. I'll talk about how I'm doing that. And then over 14 publications. So if you Google Nelson, Forbes, Inc., Huffington Post, Business Insider, Fortune, I've been published on all of those and many more, and have built over 70,000 subscribers, mainly in about a 1.5 year time period. Okay, so that's my background. Make sense? Cool. Any questions? Okay, it's all real, I promise. All right. So why does content marketing matter? It costs significantly less to do content marketing, right, than to do outbound marketing, and it actually generates, generally, for most businesses, 3 times as many leads, right? This is a study done by Demand Metric. Nearly 90% of companies use content marketing, so something must be working there, and the conversion rate is 6 times higher, right? So it is a very effective way to gain customers, and also it helps you with search optimization, of course, if you're writing really great content. So does it actually work? I wanted to quickly show you. This is actually an experiment I ran. So I have a blog. I wrote literally just for fun because I like inspiring people, getting them motivated, sharing stories of other entrepreneurs, which is why it's talking about CEOs. And the idea is I wanted to find out, could I actually just start blogging about something I'm passionate about and actually drive traffic to that? So this is an example where I really struggled for a long time at about 5,000 plus views, and then it bumped up really quickly to over close to 40,000 unique views per month on a blog on personal motivation and nothing else, right? So I wanted to walk you through exactly how I did that throughout this training. In addition to that website experiment, I also started writing Quora as an experiment and got over 12.7 million views. This is in just a little bit over a year. And so I'll walk you exactly through how I went through that process and how you can build a following as well. In this case, built a following of over 42,000 people in just a little bit over a year as well. And then on LinkedIn, over 17,000 followers, and very routinely can get over 1 million views on a post. And I'll walk you through how you can use LinkedIn as a B2B content marketing channel too. Okay? Also, what's really interesting, I ran an experiment on, okay, it's great if I get all this content out there and I actually get followers and people reading the content and getting published, but can actually get business from it. So I started testing different business ideas. My business idea I'm going to launch is actually in video courses, but I started doing services as a way to figure out product market fit and was able to get among many other clients, but this is one where I was able to charge $5,000 for 14 hours of work. Routinely charge about $500 to $600 an hour for consulting, but this was really great to quickly figure out, could I get product market fit for my courses? And I'll walk you through how I did that as well. Okay? So now it's, okay, now we know content marketing can drive an audience, but can you actually convert it? And that's what I'll walk you through. Lastly, PR expertise. I'll just show you some quick screenshots of articles I wrote. Inc., Business Insider, and Forbes, and Observer, and Time, and Fortune, and Bot Catalog, and many more. And you can see how if you write a really great piece of content, you can get really viral. This one had 15,900 shares on it with social media. All right, hopefully you're feeling like this right now. You're super excited. You see the results, and you want to generate those results too. Anyone feel this way?
Yeah.
Did you guys forget the cash prize? Okay. So I want you to walk out of here saying, this is the best. I learned a lot. It's really going to help me in my business. That's my main takeaway for you today. So let's first start by identifying your audience, right? So let's think about what your target audience actually looks like. So target audience is a demographic of people that are most likely to purchase your product or services. This could be geography, it could be occupation, income, age, etc. But this is really, really important in marketing, okay? Because when you think about creating your content, you have to make sure you're in full knowledge of who your audience is. You've got to speak their language and talk to their pain points and challenges, okay? So how do you identify that? This part's pretty straightforward. Think about the prospects that you might want to go and try to win as customers. Who are your current customers, right? What do their demographics look like? So think about that as well. And then also look at your competitors' clients. That's also a quick way to find out the target audience. So tactics to identify your target audience, these are really straightforward. What are the main benefits of your solution, service, and product? Who stands to benefit the most from it? And what are the common attributes you see amongst those prospects or clients that you're talking to? Whether it's industry, function, level, etc. So maybe someone more senior, like a CIO, and maybe within just the finance industry, right? So the more specific you can be, the more tailored your message can be, and that will resonate with people more. Okay? So diving into that a little bit further, this is something we do a lot in Silicon Valley with products that we create. We think a lot about user personas. So a user persona is a representation of the goal and behavior of a hypothesized group of users, right? So let me actually show you what that looks like. There's a tool that you can use called Extensio. You can use it for free. And it's a really good exercise that walks you through building a user persona. So for example, hypothetically, if I think, my target user persona is a marketing professional, what is their personality like? What is their bio potentially like? What are their goals? What are their frustrations, right? What are the preferred channels that they like to go to for information? So this will really help you because as you build this out, again, it's helping you to better and deeply understand your audience. Make sense? So again, this is Extensio. I highly recommend using this for building out user personas. Okay, am I going too fast, by the way?
We're good.
All right. Everyone else is like, slow down, man. Okay, I'll take it a little bit slower from here. One big thing that we really want to make sure that entrepreneurs are able to nail down is crafting your elevator pitch, right? And so, have you guys ever been in an elevator and heard an elevator pitch before? Yeah? Okay. Anyone here an awkward one or one that was too long or just didn't make sense? Raise a hand. Yeah? Anyone here like an awesome elevator pitch before? Okay, cool, awesome. So you don't want this, right, which is like the awkward elevator moment. You want to be able to nail that elevator pitch. So here's how we basically structure this, right? We start by saying, I help this specific audience with this action, with whatever product or service you offer to drive these specific business outcomes. Okay? This is a really easy way to be able to nail your elevator pitch. So what I want you to do now is to actually take a couple minutes, think about what your elevator pitch is, and then say it to the person next to you. And I'll be patiently waiting, so go for it. And I'll put it back up here so you guys can see it. Sales finding a fair exchange of value, right? So, it's great that I create this product, but if someone's only going to pay me, 5 cents for this product, can I build a business off that, right? So you've got to think about, is it a fair exchange of value? And is it so good that people will continue to use your product over and over, like PicCollage, or are they going to refer you to other people, right? So that's something you've also got to think about, which is on the retention side, and also for referrals. So here's an example of one product. I quickly launched this as an MVP. I was just curious, right? I was like, if I offer resume reviews, right, what would people be willing to pay for it and would they buy it? And the answer was people would absolutely buy it, but the only thing they would buy it for is $50, right? And I had one person say, maybe I pay $200, but 50 is probably the better number. And this takes about 2 to 3 hours of manual work to actually review a resume very well, right? And I did this as a test because I wanted to see, well, how do I quickly find product market fit? In this case, it wasn't a fit, right? Because that breaks down to what, about $15 plus an hour, which is really tough to sustain as a business. All I did was I talked to people and I said, what are your pain points? And they said, it's actually not about the resume. That doesn't really help me that much. I just want my dream job. You help me land my dream job, I'll pay you $3,000 for 5 hours of work, right? So again, we added about 2 hours, but we went from $50 to $3,000. Now, this is why I wanted to do this experiment, is because I realized so much of this is speaking their language about what they care about and structuring the content to fit what they want and to give them something that's going to solve their pain points, right? And so that's how you go from, again, $50 to $3,000. Make sense? Okay. So here's an example. David went through it. He ended up, landing 12 interviews at some of the best tech companies in the world. And then, Laris is a guy who landed a dream job in a fast growth startup. So it was really interesting to see this because once we had some case studies, it really took off from there. So what was my point? The point is, once you find product market fit, one thing you'll realize too is outcome-based selling works really, really well, right? So, for example, you could say I can review your resume. Is that really an outcome? Yeah, a slightly better resume. But what people really wanted was, how do I get that $100,000, per year job, or how do I get my dream job in, let's say tech sales, right? Whatever it might be. So think about what is the outcome that you're going to be driving, and use that in your marketing. Make sense? Okay. Am I going too fast? Okay. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on research and product market fit, because if you don't have that, you can do all the marketing in the world, but you're not going to sell anything. Make sense? Okay. Am I losing you guys, or everything's good? Okay, cool. All right, now let's get into content marketing. So there are 5 rules for content marketing. This is especially true for writing. The first is be reader-centric. Write about things they care about, okay? Number 2 is you have to be a storyteller. This is really, really important nowadays. The third is there are proven writing frameworks that I'm going to give you. You don't have to go and try 50 different writing frameworks. I did that on my own. I wrote about 100, I think 50 plus articles in about a year testing different frameworks. You don't need to do that. I'll give you the proven stuff, okay? And then you can, I'll teach you how to leverage multiple platforms, and then how do you execute consistently. Sound good? Okay. By the way, this training I've sold to other companies for $3,000. You guys are getting it all for free, so hopefully you're excited about that. 2 people are not. Thank you. All right, number 1, be reader-centric, right? So this gift pretty much sums it up. Not really a gift crowd, huh? Okay, I'll exclude these next time. But really, you're not the center of the universe, the customer is. So understand their why. What is your reader interested in? What adds value to their lives? This part's really important, right? So for example, anyone a dog owner in here? Okay, great. So as a dog owner, what might you care about in terms of content?
I guess fleas. How do you prevent fleas?
Okay, cool.
And also, they're shedding. How do you solve that problem?
Right, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Also, dog food is really expensive, so
Okay.
where can you get healthy and more inexpensive dog food?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I really missed the market. None of those are listed up.
Let's go, Don.
Awesome, cool. So, that's why you do one-on-one interviews, right? It's I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it might be all those things, or exercise routines you want for your corgi. Really? Corgis running dog? You don't? No? That's not cute? Okay. Thank you. The dog owner. Cool. So, the thing is you have to write what they care about, right? So how do you determine what topics to write about for that audience? How would you guys do it? The hint is I already gave you the answer. Quora could be one, yep. One-on-one interviews, yep. Google keywords, keyword everywhere, right? Okay, so those are great ways to quickly find out what topics you should write about. Okay, now I'm going to break down how you actually do the writing. Okay, this is what we call the storytelling aspect. When you think about storytelling, right, we've been doing it since pretty much the beginning of time when we started speaking, right? That's how we basically passed on messages and values, etc. But let me ask you guys, how many PowerPoints have you remembered in your life? None? Zero? One? Okay. Right?
We got that one.
Yep.
Just one.
What was the one you remembered? Just curious.
The Simon Sinek's one.
Oh, is it the TEDx talk?
Yeah.
I think I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
The circle.
I think he's a really good storyteller though. I don't think it was just like,
I mean, it's that image though.
oh, the circle part. I do remember that too.
That's the power wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the point is tell stories and draw circles. So the story framework, here's how it works, okay? This is guaranteed to work, seriously. If you write it enough, it will work. It is the against all odds or underdog story, that's the most popular one. And I break it down in 5 chapters, right? The first is the struggle is real. What is the failure, right? What is the pain associated with that failure? People love to see someone vulnerable and open and actually sharing an experience about failure, right? Think about it. When you guys first start reading an article and it says, I just lost $1 million, you're probably going to want to read that, right? Right? Okay. So if it's very visceral and they feel that, they will get drawn into your article. I promise you that. Here's one of my articles I got written for Inc. And you can see they're nice enough to promote the app that I was launching at that time. But the idea here is I share the failure, right? And this isn't even like astronomical failure, right? So I flunked a class, like really, who cares? But you know what? Like it got people into the article, right? Or when I was 22, I interviewed and I got ranked pretty much second to last in every interview, right? Or when I was 25, I created 9 iPhone apps, all of which failed miserably before I hit the 4 in the top 100, right? So you want to show that pain in the beginning to draw people in. Let me give you an example. Another one could be, you could start an article off like, work has been tough lately, right? Is that interesting though? Anyone? No. I just got fired and I had $500 left in savings. Is that interesting? Hell yeah, right? It's like a 180. So you got to think in that regard. The second is rock bottom. So talk about how does that protagonist actually hit rock bottom? Why does this matter? And then how does that change the person? So for me, I actually shared a really personal story, which was hard, but it was one of my best friends, Eric. He actually passed away in his late 30s. He was like a brother to me. He passed away from cancer. This is a very hard article for me to write, but I felt like Eric would want me to pass on a positive message, which is what the rest of the article talks about. And so for me, this was rock bottom, right? But this is the kind of stuff when people read this and they're like, oh my God, you're being very open and vulnerable. Like, I relate to you. And I've been through something similar or just as tough, or maybe not as tough, but I feel that pain that you feel. And people get really drawn to that connection, right? And the third piece is, okay, you hit rock bottom, how do you get back on your feet? Because people do want to see someone who's really struggling, falling down, get back up and actually succeed. And you've got to think about what are the challenges you need to overcome and what are the actions that you have to take. And so here I write about, over the last 30 years, I've been working with a lot of, other peers or executives from all these great companies, and I've learned from them along with some books along the way. And then what's the big moment, right? So after all this work that you put in, right? Anyone seen Rocky? Am I dating myself? Rocky, and all like superhero movies, right? They go through that training period, they're like getting really buff, and then all this, they're getting their new outfit or like costume or whatever it is if it's a superhero, and like they become that awesome superhero they're supposed to be, or in Rocky's case, a great boxer, and then they get to that fight or that, moment where they have to win, and that's the big moment, right? So you want to show that process of going through all of that hardship, but the outcome that you got from doing that, right? In this case, I was ranked second to last, couldn't get a job coming out of a training program, and then, ended up being one of the top reps for VMware and generated 1.6 million in pipeline from a single activity, right? So it's an example of, okay, things didn't go well, but here's how I overcame that. And people really, really get drawn to that. The fifth piece is, okay, now that you've shown that, what are the key lessons you've learned that you can share with people, right? And so people love listicles, and the reason is, one, we're probably just, more ADD than we were ever before, right? So I think that's a part of it. We want things on demand. The second piece is, if you have a finite amount of time where you can get someone's attention, they want to know, if I click on this article, I think I can get maybe 1 or 2 or 3 nuggets from it, and it's easier to make that decision when it's like, top 10 things I learned as an entrepreneur. Okay, it's probably not too long of an article, and I can probably get 1 or 2 nuggets out of it. Make sense? So this is why Listicles and BuzzFeed is so incredibly popular, because you feel like you can get value in a very short amount of time. Okay, make sense? Any questions? Yes.
What do you think about writing, like how you speak? Is that effective?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest mistakes people make with content marketing is they think they need to write like a corporation. And that's actually the worst thing you can do if you're trying to build a personal brand. You should definitely be super authentic to who you are. Your humor, right? Just don't offend anyone. Be smart about it, right? Your humor, your energy, your passion. A lot of my writing is very casual, actually. It's just like the way I speak. And you know what? I think people like that, right? Because they don't want to read like a corporate blog post that is really boring. They want to get to know you as a person. And the interesting thing is, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do this, actually. They write about their own personal stories as founders. They write about it on LinkedIn or Quora, and then they get very viral and actually drives a lot of traffic to their site for business. Like, it's amazing how people go, wow, I loved your article, I'm going to work with you. I've had people tell me that all the time. So it's a really effective way to not only build a personal brand, but also drive your business. The third is using proven writing frameworks. The other ones I'm going to quickly tell you. So one is storytelling. 2 is the listicles. The third is data-driven insights. If you have specific data that you've collected through a survey or through your customers and it's unique to you, that's also very helpful. The fourth one is creative writing. So Sean Kernan is really well known for this on Quora. He does a lot of creative writing. I have an article on that too that got really viral with about close to 1 million views, where I just wrote like a poem on Quora with my answer on basically how to motivate yourself. I'll send it to you guys, but it's not in a traditional writing format, and that one was the most popular article I ever wrote. So don't be afraid to experiment with things that are non-traditional as well. Take risks. My recommendation is test on Quora always first, especially with writing, and then proliferate to other platforms once you get ahead. And then you can also use humor for your articles as well. So the strategy here is write once, distribute everywhere, but the reality is, when we talk, I believe we talked about this earlier, posting content to Instagram is very different from Quora, for example, right? So I don't pretend like I'm an Instagram expert. I'm not good at, taking wonderful photos with filters. But the idea is, if you write something really good on Quora, you can repurpose that to LinkedIn or Facebook and drive a lot of virality through that as well. So it does apply to some of the platforms, right? Any questions so far? Okay, is this helpful?
Yes.
Okay. How to get free press? This is really straightforward. So a lot of people think, well, you gotta write this article, then you gotta reach out to the press person and pitch them, and I have absolutely done that for clients to get them published. But it's generally not usually that successful. I think the better way to do it is you just have to be so damn good at content that they cannot ignore you. That's a quote from Steve Martin, minus the damn part, right? But the idea is, like, if you just write amazing things, trust me, people will notice because it gets so viral, and they will reach out to you and say, I want to publish your work, right? So I'll give you an example. There's an entrepreneur I used to work with. He was a partner that we were talking to. And basically, he wrote on LinkedIn about his story as an entrepreneur and how he left a company to start his own startup. And it got really viral, and he kept writing about it, and then eventually got picked up by Business Insider. They saw it on LinkedIn, and they're like, we love your story, we want to publish it. Simple as that, right? I've also seen in other cases where you hire a PR firm, they introduce you to the reporter, and they interview you, and the story that you think you're telling is completely different from what they publish. You guys ever seen that before?
Yeah.
Right? So that happens sometimes. And then the second thing is you can pitch them your story through an interview, and they may not even publish you. They may say, I don't think it's that interesting, actually, right? So this is one way you can control your destiny, which is if you run on these platforms and you go viral, you build a following, right? People will notice, and they publish what you write. They don't modify it. You control the narrative of your story. That's where it's really, really important, okay? Make sense? So this is an example. This is one of the first articles I wrote that got published. But you know what? It took me over 24 articles before I got published. So it wasn't like an overnight thing. You have to work at it to get better. And then it got viral, and people started reaching out to publish it. Here's an example. Yep, go ahead.
Real quick. So when you're structuring out these pieces, like,
how do you measure yourself? What are the benchmarks? Is it, you know, one article a week? Is it 2 a month? Or how do you do that?
Yeah, so I got kind of obsessed with the experiment because I really like building things. I wrote almost one every other day.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really intense about it. I also didn't go out a lot in San Francisco. I had a year where I was like just writing, and it's just because I loved it, honestly. I just love, like, people came back to me. I got one email, this guy was like, my mom passed away, and I finally could get out of bed after reading your article. And I was like, that makes it all worthwhile for, for that year, right?
So when you're coaching these guys and you're, you know, giving the style and the places to publish it and how you, or where to post it and how you would figure out, you know, what to write about, are you also saying like, hey, try to at least do these many pieces a week, or I mean,
I think,
or do we have to do that every other day type of thing and get obsessive over it? I mean,
I think it totally varies, right? Some people can write one a week and get published on every article. Others might have to write 10 articles before they get there. There's no linear path to success. I think it's totally different for everybody. But what I would say is what generally wins is consistent, good effort.